the game, feel the crowd ignite. Big plays coming under Friday night. Baseball swing, hear the crack of the bat. Basketball swish, yeah, just like that. Touchdowns, home runs, breaking chains on this channel. We bring the heat to the game. Lock in, suit up, get ready to go. You're part of the fam, now enjoy the show. And rolling with Carlos, we bring the fire.
Welcome to the show SwampCast, hosted by Carlos and Dylan.
Welcome back, Dylan. Nice to see you again.
It's nice to be back, my friend. Thank you for having me.
I know you've been busy with the spring game just passing and recruiting going crazy. I want to get your thoughts on the spring game that just passed, even though it wasn't really a spring game. It was some weird format that Billy also kind of used similarly. And there's some confusion that a lot of people think it ended 45-45, and it turned out to be not the case. Your overall thoughts on the spring game, then we'll slowly break it down. What you think about the spring game? Are you impressed with John Summerall and the staff, what they're doing?
Yeah. I thought, it was a little bit unique seeing offense versus defense. We haven't seen that, back in even last year. It was just a straight up separate teams and go at it, one team versus the other. This time it was a little bit of, and I liked it. I think, especially when you have 50 new faces on the roster, you're trying to see everyone work together with everyone, if that makes sense. So splitting it up to where Tramel Jones is just throwing to a couple wide receivers and Aaron File is throwing to a couple different ones, it would have been tough to really evaluate. So I like the format. I liked what I saw. I think, Buster Faulkner, we've heard a lot about his offensive scheme. We've heard a lot about his new offense. It was fun to watch. A lot of new things in Gainesville, which is really exciting. All in all, the performance, I think from a spring game, obviously it's a long way to go till real football is being played. So I'm not going to be over here like they don't look like they're going to win 10 games because of a spring game, right? Like we got a long way to go, a lot of stuff to improve, but I thought, a lot of really exciting stuff. They were slinging the ball there for a little bit. I mean, quarterbacks got off to a kind of a slow start, but towards the end of the half, there was a lot of crazy plays. So yeah, I mean, all in all, I think they look physical, they look talented. We all know they have the talent. It was nice to see it on a real football field in front of fans. So really exciting stuff. I'm not taking away too much from it, but it was a really fun game.
I know you weren't around when this happened, but are you starting to get the vibes that Gainesville is starting to feel like when Urban Meyer was around after Ron Zook got fired? Is that atmosphere starting to feel like that?
Yeah, I think, like you said, I wasn't around here then. I'm still a young guy, but I mean, the vibes are definitely up right now. I think having a basketball program that is so successful, unfortunately, obviously, it sucked seeing them go out the way they did, but still a really highly respected coach, a really highly respected program, a winning program. And then you got a football coach who he's got a lot of urban in him, right? Like you can see it. He shares a lot of the same philosophies. So it's not hard to say, hey, I wasn't there, but I can definitely see what they were feeling back in the day. Now, John Summerall has a long way to go to winning, football games, right? Not even championships, just winning football games. We're a long way to go, but
Yes.
I think, there's definitely a different feeling in Gainesville. It's a really exciting time. I think basketball is really setting the standard of what you want for the sports at the university, and hopefully football can follow here soon. I think just from the spring game, it looks like they're on a good start to that. So it's really exciting.
Your thoughts on the quarterback battle? Because I heard it was Philo started off kind of good, then shaky, then the second half, um, the guy I've been advocating for the last year plus seems to be rallying around the troops, and the troops seem to be more comfortable with him. Is that a vibe that, since I didn't get to see the game and I've just seen your clips and other clips floating around the internet. Is that a correct vibe me getting from those clips?
Yeah, I think, both quarterbacks started off a little shaky. Philo was driving down the field a little more than Trammell at the start. Trammell kind of his first couple of drives were you could tell he was really getting comfortable in the game. And then both of them really it was really surprising at the game. You look up and the defense is winning like 21-3, like with that weird scoring. The defense was blowing them out the water, dominating.
Okay.
Then 3 drives later, you look up and the offense is winning, and the offense goes on to win the game. If you watch the clips, there was like back-to-back huge touchdowns. Aaron Philo threw it on a double move to VB3, and then Trammell comes right back with a 75-yard touchdown to Micah Mays. So, yeah, the quarterbacks, they started off a little rough. I think all in all, day wise, I think Trammell had the better day. That's not saying that it was like, I think people look at the stats and say, oh, it's clear and obvious that Trammell dominated and Aaron Philo sucked, right? I think Philo had 2 interceptions. One of them, great play by DJ Coleman. Most people will tell you that was the right read by Aaron Philo. Maybe not the best, the perfect throw, but it was just an incredible play by DJ Coleman. And then the second one was a pretty bad throw. The right decision, just didn't put it where it needed to be. Bounced off VB3's hands, but it was really behind him. So I think, a lot's being made of the 2 interceptions, as in Aaron Philo had a really bad day. He didn't have a really bad day. I think he had arguably, maybe probably the second best throw of the day. Trammell's 75-yard to Micah Mays was the best throw of the day, but the second best to Micah Mays again in the end zone. So I think both of them really flashed again. Uh, we keep saying it. 50-50 is what they keep saying about the room. I truly, after the spring game, like, I think it's hard not to say, yeah, it's 50-50. I think both of them did a lot of things good. Both of them did a lot of things where, you're looking for them to improve. I mean, coming into the game, we talked a lot about Aaron Philo needs to handle the turnovers. He
Yep.
has too many turnovers. And we talked about Trammell Jones needing to be more comfortable in the pocket. And
Yep.
there was a couple plays where, there was one play where he had a pretty clean pocket. His internal clock went off and he kind of jumped around the pocket and fell down for like a 15-yard sack. So both of them had their ups and downs. Like I said, I think Trammell won the day just because he had a lot of flash throws. I mean, the Eric Singleton bomb and the Micah Mays bomb were awesome. Didn't turn the ball over, which is huge. But I think, both of them did pretty well. Philo better in the intermediate in a little bit. So it's a really good competition. It's going to go far into fall. And I'm just glad that I don't have to make that decision because I think it's going to be a really tough decision at the end of the day.
Did you guys get to see any two back sets? Because there's a rumor going around, and I've seen the clips in practice. Obviously, your clips because you're one of the beat writers I follow a lot. Besides our friendship, did you guys get to see any of the two back sets in the spring game, or was the offense pretty vanilla?
Yeah, no, I mean, even though it was kind of a condensed, you're not going to see everything that Buster
Of
Faulkner has
course.
in his bag of tricks. We still saw a lot of unique formations. I was kind of sad we didn't see the Wildcat. I think the Wildcat would have been so fun to see. I mean, we've seen it in practice. But yeah, there was a lot of different formations. I mean, there was a fourth down play where they had Duke Clark in the backfield and they had Jaden Ball lined up at fullback. They gave the ball to Jaden Ball. It looked like it was a little bit of a triple option look, kind of. They ended up getting stuffed, but really cool play, really unique play. So yeah, I mean, we saw a lot of different formations, a lot of fun formations that I think Florida fans were kind of hoping for, right? After all the tight end sets that we got with Billy Napier. A little more fun this year for sure. And it again, like I said, we didn't see too much. It was just a spring game, but Buster Faulkner's offense looks really exciting. It looks like it's going to be a lot of fun, and I think it's exactly what Florida fans have been asking for quite some time.
Ironically, you mentioned the Wildcat. There's a possible flip that I would love to see in the Wildcat by the name of Brewster, because he actually plays running back in high school.
Yeah.
So if we do get that flip, Buster Faulkner, please put him at Wildcat if you're still the offensive coordinator going into 2027, or is he 20? He's a 2027 kid, right?
Yeah. That would be something. That would be must-watch television for sure.
So, what are you comfortable with the DV safety room? If we were to start football today, who would be your starters?
Yeah, I think, it was hard to evaluate them on Saturday just because they bid on a couple double moves, right? Like when you have big plays, it's like all right, we got to kind of question the secondary. But at the same time, I thought Cormani McLean played really well. He had a lot of plays where you just like very noticeable, like a great play by Cormani McLean. Ben Hanks was playing with the starters, played well, made a lot of tackles where I was like, cornerbacks, you're not expecting them to go in there and make a bunch of tackles, but Ben Hanks was putting his head down, going, making tackles. So yeah, if it was a game right now, yeah, I think that's another tough one where it's like I think you have four really good starting options in Dejon Johnson, Cormani McLean, Ben Hanks, and Javari Flowers. I think you gotta get all of them on the field. If I had to pick a starters just off of how spring camp has gone, like if they were playing a game on Saturday, a real game, I honestly might give the nod to Ben Hanks over Cormani McLean, and it might be Dijon Johnson and Ben Hanks, and Javari Flowers in there somewhere, I'm sure, but. Ben Hanks has had just an incredible spring, and I'm a huge fan of Cormani McLean. Don't get me wrong. I think he could become a high draft pick in the NFL draft, but Ben Hanks has just had that good of a spring where I think they're ready to play all four of those guys a ton, and I think we see them all as much as it's like you have to throw someone out there and start someone week one. I think all four of them are starters. We're gonna see them plenty, and that's a really good room. Even though they bid on some double moves and the Florida offense got them a couple times. At the end of the day in a spring game, you're never gonna be happy because the offense looked terrible because the cornerbacks did well, and then the cornerbacks look terrible because the offense did well, right? It's tough, but I'm really excited for that room. I think those four guys are really talented, and Florida is not going to have any problem, getting. And then Jordan Lowry, a guy that I didn't even include, he made some plays. He looked good. I think a really high upside pickup, not the biggest pickup in the portal, but a really high upside guy. So again, that unit I think is exciting. Got to see it on a real football field, and got to see more discipline and more consistency than biting on double moves. But I think they have a chance to be really good.
Did people call him Big O? I'm talking about Obadejo.
Mhm.
Did he get to play or he didn't
Yeah,
get to play much?
fantastic pronunciation right there. I struggle with it still,
Okay,
but no, no,
that's
you
what I thought
killed
when
it.
I read it the first time. I wasn't sure, so I
You
just
killed
went with
it.
it.
You killed it. But yeah, he was playing. He had what would have been a sack. I think they blew a play dead, and Jaden Woods and him were in the backfield. But I'd give it to him. He had a sack. He looked really good. I think he's hard to miss. He's a huge guy, but he played a lot with the ones. He's gonna be a big time contributor. I think for
Yeah,
Florida, and he looked
yeah.
really good. I think he looked the part. So another exciting player for sure.
Did we get to see any of the running backs besides Jaden Ball? Pryor played a lot, or not much either?
Yeah, a lot of them played a lot. Jaden Ball actually played the least amount just because they're being careful with him. Evan Pryor had probably the biggest run of the day, I believe. They didn't run the ball too much because in the spring game you're kind of looking to pass the ball, right? You're
Yes.
trying to spread it around the field, but when they did run, Duke Clark looked phenomenal. Buster Faulkner had a lot of good things to say about him. Really burst, like it's kind of surprising how he burst through the holes. Not the guy that I came into camp like, when you add Evan Pryor and London Montgomery to a running back room that already has Jaden Ball, I'm not thinking like, oh, Duke Clark's going to be running back too, right? But I think he is. I think he solidified himself as running back too. So really exciting for him. Evan Pryor looked the part. I think Evan Pryor is going to be a really solid. And when I say Duke Clark's running back too, I think it's kind of separate, right? I think when Jaden Ball is healthy, Jaden Ball is running back one. Evan Pryor's running back too. But if Jaden Ball was to go down, God forbid, I think Duke Clark might step into the running back one role, and then you got Evan Pryor as running back two still. So I think that room is really exciting as well. London Montgomery flashed at times. He played a lot too. And then even Byron Lewis. Byron Lewis played a lot. Buster Faulkner, I believe, mentioned that, when he gets his opportunities, he flashes. So a lot of good talent there. I keep saying, every room I feel like a sunshine pumper, like a lot of good talent. But this roster has a lot of talent, right? So I think, in a spring game where you get to see them all, it's exciting, and I think they all look the part for sure.
Did we get to see somewhat of the special teams besides the kicker and punter? Because I saw this on actually, if you ain't a Gator podcast, someone asked the question and I pretty much answered it in the comment section. Do we know who's going to be the kick returners? And I said pretty much BB3 and Pryor should be the kick returners. I don't know if I hit it correctly. I don't know what the coaches are thinking. Do you think I hit it correctly, or am I just being a
Yeah,
sunshine pumper myself?
I think, it's too early to tell in those rooms. We didn't see too much of the special teams actually. When they punted, it was just the punter, the long snapper, and the returner. So there
Okay.
was a couple times where VB3 was out there. I think Bailey Stockton was out there some.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I wasn't paying too much attention when they were punting because it was a grind getting all those clips in, man.
I
I was trying
understand.
to pump them out,
I
but
understand.
I think, and then when there wasn't, I don't think there was any kickoffs other than the first kickoff of the game and then to start the half. So again, you didn't see too much, but we got to see the field goal unit. They look good, other than, he missed the field goal at the end there, but he looked pretty good. And yeah, I think special teams is going to be something to look forward to with this staff. They're not taking it lightly. We see it at practice every day when you go out there. That's the first thing you see. So, yeah, the spring game wasn't too big to show that off, which I think some of us would have been kind of annoyed if it was like, oh, here we go, we have to watch them punt like 6 times, right? Like, I think we all had more fun watching Micah Mays go crazy for 140 yards or whatever he had. So, but yeah, I'm not too worried about the special teams for sure.
now, now that you said Mike Mays, you gave me a segue to ask the next question. Um, who's your starting five? Because is he knocking someone out to become a reserve instead of being on the field? Because I'm hearing a lot of Mike Mays, and we spoke about this in the previous spring game show. Is he knocking someone to be a reserve?
Yeah, I think he's had the best camp out of anyone, maybe on the entire roster, right? Like when we got Micah Mays, I dove into the film and I was like, yeah, this guy's like a burner. You can maybe scheme him up for like a play downfield or something. I was not expecting him to look this good. Every practice he looks phenomenal. Spring game he looked even better. Like we got to actually see him on the field and he looked really good. It's tough because there's so much talent in the wide receiver room. I think if I had to name a starting five out of those guys right now, I think, obviously I think the three starters are still solidified, and that's Dallas Wilson when he's healthy, VB3, and Eric Singleton. And Eric Singleton looks like probably the best wide receiver on this football team. I mean, scored in the spring game, had the most catches, just a phenomenal football player. But then if I had to do the next two, I think Micah Mays is the fourth wide receiver right now, and then I think fifth is Bailey Stockton. I think all five of those guys play a lot of football this year. And I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know who's going to get hurt. There's probably going to be someone that gets hurt. Unfortunately, that's just how football is, especially in the SEC. But I think Florida has enough talent in that wide receiver room where it's not like, oh no, someone goes down and we gotta throw someone in there that we don't think can play high quality football. Like there's probably 7 guys that I feel comfortable running out there, and that's not even to mention. I completely forgot to mention TJ Abrams, who arguably had one of the best performances out of the wide receivers. They were using him in a lot of unique ways, so that's 7, 8 wide receivers that are really talented. And then Davion Gross wasn't even out there, right, for injury. So was Dallas Wilson. So that room is really deep. I think Micah Mays is wide receiver 4 right now, if I had to guess. But he's gonna, when I say wide receiver 4, a lot of in some offenses, wide receiver 4 might just be the guy that sits the bench and right gives them water. But Micah Mays is going to be playing a lot of football. It's not going to be the wide receiver 4 that his name's on the depth chart, but you never see him in the game. You're going to see him out there. You're going to see him making plays, and an incredible camp. I can't praise his camp enough because, again, like, I don't think any of us were expecting to be like, yeah, Micah Mays is that guy, right? Like, Micah Mays is the dude we're gonna leave spring being like talking the most about. But he had a really good camp, and I think bet on himself coming to Florida. Didn't have the Wake Forest didn't really give him a lot of great opportunities with a bad quarterback room, a bad football team in general. No offense to Wake Forest, but he definitely has his stock boosted through the roof right now, and I'm really excited for him.
Should Tramel Jones and Aaron Philo be concerned and be looking over their shoulder over the young kid called Will Griffin? Or am I
Yeah,
jumping the gun?
I think you're jumping the gun a little just because, listen, I'm a huge Will Griffin fan, especially after camp. Like, I came into camp thinking, like, there's no way that Will Griffin is going to be ready for maybe 2 years, right? I wasn't, I didn't watch him too much in high school. I just knew he was a 4-star guy. After watching him at spring camp for like a day, I had to go back and watch his film in high school. And then I went back to watching his film in 8th grade when he was a starter. And I'm like, damn, like, this kid's been the man. Like, he's going to be a great football player. That being said, he's still young. Every time we talk about him, the coaches are like, yeah, he's got all the ability to be a great football player, but he's got a long way to go and a lot of things to learn. I think in the spring game we saw that, right? He had a couple good throws, and then he had a throw where he wanted to take the deep shot, and I'm sure the coaches were not happy with him for it because it was into double coverage, and Honest, I'm not even going to try to say his last name. Honest,
Yeah.
the London DB, got a pick. So,
Yeah.
I think Will Griffin's going to be a phenomenal quarterback. I think he's the future. I think once Trammell or Aaron, whoever win this job, is gone, I think that's Will Griffin's job. We might even see it next year, him competing for it. But right now, as of right now, I don't think Will Griffin, they should be worried about him just because he's got a long way to go. But he's a really talented football player, and I think the future is so bright for him.
Is there an area of concern? Because I heard rumors of the tackles having issues, or was that just a case of Buster Faulkner not showing the true starters because it was a spring game?
Yeah, I mean, they definitely showed the true starters. I think that they have not been, they have not hidden the fact that they're not exactly confident in the O line, just from the fact that, there's not 5 guys that they're like, oh, these are our 5 starters. Like, set it, forget it, whatever. But at the same time, you got to give credit to Florida's defensive line. Looked really good. LJ McCray, another guy, arguably pushing Micah Mays for the best camp, looked really good in the spring game as well. Had a lot of pressures. KJ Ford, a dog, man. He had a good spring game. Pushing for playing time as a true freshman, which is awesome. So a lot of credit to the defensive line. A guy I follow on Twitter, Brooks Austin. I was watching his film breakdown the other day. He he said it himself. Like, I think John Summerall knows the roster better than we do. But at the same time, when you're watching that game, it's not as much as like, oh, I'm really, really concerned about the offensive line, which, don't get me wrong, that is a concern. I think they have a long way to go, but it's more of just like, wow, this defensive line is really good. Not a lot of people came into camp thinking like, oh, this defensive line is going to be phenomenal, but Jaden Woods looks as advertised, was dominating in the spring game. Emmanuel O, who we just talked about, really good performance. So the offensive line is definitely, if I had to pick one spot in particular where I'm like what am I most concerned about going into fall, I think it's the offensive line. But at the same time, long way to go. You got Phil Troutline, who's one of the best coaching them, and he's really only gotten maybe a month or two with them to like really settle in. So I think the summer is going to be huge. As John Summerall said, they have to have a big summer. But when you have a great coach like that and you have talent, right? Like, I don't think we're looking at the offensive line group like that's not SEC caliber, like bodies, that's not SEC caliber players. They just kind of have to develop, and Phil Troutline has to work his magic a little bit. So definitely the most concerning, but I didn't leave the spring game like, oh, we're going to only win 3 games because, they let up a couple sacks, right? I think there's a long way to go.
Yeah, that was my next question because people were already panicking because what they saw in the spring game. A lot of people are chopping the Auburn game as loss number one for Coach Summerall and company. Should we are they SEC level or just they're not there yet, and we cannot say they're SEC level because they haven't even played a game?
Yeah, listen, I think, that I mentioned it earlier. That's the problem with the spring game is like you can either leave it, oh wow, the defensive line is like super dominant, or you leave it, oh, the offensive line like sucks. You know what I mean? So it's just how you look at it. If you're want to freak out about something. At the end of the day, it's a spring game. We got over 100 days till real football is being played. I think the offensive line has the physical bodies to be an SEC offensive line. I mean, when you look at Caden Jones, you're like, wow, like that dude is huge, right? Now he has a long way to go before I'm like, yeah, Caden Jones is holding it down at the tackle position, right? But I think they have the bodies to be SEC caliber. I think they have the coach that's going to put them in a right spot to be SEC caliber. Now it depends on how good of a summer do they have, and I think the biggest question really is not if the offensive line figures itself out, it's when. Does Phil Trautwein and John Summerall have enough time with this unit to get them ready to go to be SEC caliber, or are we waiting till next year when they've shown that they're gonna go hard after the trenches, right? And that's their big goal. Maxwell Hiller, incredible commitment, one of the best commits that Florida's had in a while. So I think I'm very confident in the staff getting them to SEC level. The question is, do they have enough time? And in year one as a coach, you're not going to have all your guys, right? Like we heard that with Billy Napier until year 4, right? That he didn't have his guys yet. But I think there is some truth to it where it's like, there a lot of these guys are returning where it's like Phil Trautwein didn't have a lot to do with them.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they have a long way to go for sure. And it's a long way until I'm going to make up my mind on like, are they SEC caliber or not? But I think they have the potential to be for sure. We'll have to see how it goes.
Um, from what you saw, what areas should they be recruiting? Is it more offensive line? Defense is okay. Is it more safety? More cornerbacks? We just got another quarterback in Davian Davidson. Um, what do you believe they should hit more at? Is it more offensive line or?
Yeah, I think, it's hard with recruiting because you don't want to just look at what the roster lacks right now and be like, oh,
Yeah,
that's what they need to recruit, because you have an entire year before those guys are even getting to campus, and
yeah.
anything can happen, the portal, all that stuff. Just looking at their class right now, I think offensive line has a long way to go, but they're at a great start. Obviously, Maxwell Hiller as your first commit is huge. They're going after a bunch of guys. Maxwell Hiller himself is going after a bunch of guys, a bunch of big names. I think, offensive line and defensive line is going to be a huge priority under John Summerall. And on the trail right now, they're killing it. Defensive line, other than Jalen Brewster, I think they're gaining momentum with some big names. Before then, it was kind of, you're hearing smaller names that have a lot of potential, and Gerald Chapman does wonders. You know what I mean? Like he can handle it with any type of talent. We've seen that before. But yeah, on the trail right now, I think we're gonna probably see a lot of wide receiver commits coming in soon. I think they're trending for a lot of guys there. You just got Davin Davidson, who's one of the top quarterbacks in the country. He knows a lot of guys. He's recruiting a lot of guys. So you're gonna see a lot of wide receiver commits come in. You're pretty solid with your cornerbacks class right now with Amari Fountain and Amari Nugent. So I think right now it's really just, can you get those big names on the offensive line that you look like you're in the race for, but can you finish on those guys? And then I'd love to see Jalen Brewster. Obviously, that's going to be huge, a tough one. But can you get guys on that defensive line that other than, are you asking Gerald Chapman, hey, work your magic, or are you giving him a little bit of an easier, with Jalen Brewster, it's like he doesn't have to work too hard to make that kid a beast. I think he can make
He's
that
already
kid
a beast.
right. He can make that kid a top 10 pick for sure. But
Yeah.
it's do you want to make this kid a top 10 pick, or can you make this kid into an SEC starter? Right. So I think I'm excited to see what they can do on the trail, and they're off to a great start for sure.
Um, are there two incoming flips we can think of? Bruce, not only Brewster, but we got Matthews and possibly Kennedy Brown to be exact. I haven't heard anything about Kennedy Brown. I follow Kennedy Brown and he likes some of my tweets. I'm trying to get him to respond, but no luck. So, do you think Kennedy Brown and Matthews are a realistic shot, or is Gator Nation and myself just being Disney Gators?
Yeah, I think with Phil Troutwine, and when you land someone like Maxwell Hiller, and when you have this energy around the program, there's no one that's not a realistic shot. That being said, Mark Matthews is going to be a tough one, right? I think, that one's basically done. I don't think Florida's really in the running for that one anymore. I believe he dropped his like top 4 and Florida wasn't even in it. So,
Okay.
him, I think there's a point where when you're going after so many top guys, sometimes you just realize like, all right, we're not going to get this guy, right? So let's go on to the next guy. Kennedy Brown, I haven't heard too much about. I haven't talked to him myself, but again, a guy that Maxwell Hiller mentioned that he wants to go after. I think, when great players want to play next to great players, and when you have a great player like Maxwell Hiller with a great coach like Phil Troutwine, that class is going to recruit itself in a way. Obviously, they have a long way to go to getting the top 5 stars like Kennedy Brown, but I think there's a real possibility for Kennedy Brown. I think there's like 7 names right now of really, really good offensive linemen that Florida is in the fight for. So I think at the end of the day, we land a couple guys. It's not just going to be Maxwell Hiller and, that's it. I think we land at least 3 or 4 really, really high caliber guys. And again, just the recruiting momentum that Florida is working with right now is super exciting. It's real, right? It's not fake. It's not like, oh, they're landing the kids that they're supposed to land. Like they're pushing for guys that, they're the University of Florida is supposed to land, but it's not like guys that are super easy to land, right? They're setting the standard where it should be, and really exciting stuff. I think we see a big class for sure.
I've any you got any insight on any potential flips, or not really at this point? Are those the ones that are floating around are the ones that we expect can possibly flip? Even the Gator Nation is going crazy over Brewster because Texas Tech just signed another defensive lineman. So Gator Nation's reading into that Brewster has some concussion with Florida, and he signed the paper without announcing that he's flipped.
Yeah, flip wise, not too much. I will also say that Texas Tech, that guy was an edge. I did see some people freaking out. Brewster's interior, that guy's an
Yeah,
edge.
exactly. That's why I was like, "What?"
Yeah, I think, people love to be like, oh, this is gonna happen, right? But flip wise, I don't think so. A couple kids that I'm just monitoring for commitments. I think Elias Pearl, who's really good friends with Davin Davidson, has been trending to Florida for a while. He's one that I could see pop in the future. Anthony Jennings, a kid that I've talked to on a multitude of occasions. He mentioned that, his recruitment is coming to a close. I'm not sure how soon we can expect this, but I think he's a kid to watch out for. I think a lot of wide receivers, right? I talked to Trenton Yancey the other day,
Yep,
Texas wide
I
receiver.
did a video on Yancey.
Yeah, he's a dog, man. That kid's a really good football player. I think he would fit Buster Faulkner's offense really well. He mentioned that landing Maxwell Hiller and Davin Davidson makes it like a real reality that he could end up at Florida. And that's like I said, when elite kids are landing there, and Davin Davidson and Maxwell Hiller are elite kids, like that's gonna catch people's attention, and that's gonna make more people want to go there. So, I'm not sure flip wise, but there's definitely a lot of kids that I'm looking out for. I know you put the crystal ball in for Tyler Alexander, another really good football player that I think could end up in Florida's
I've got
class.
inside track on Tyler Alexander. I speak to Tyler often
Yeah.
because I even put it on TikTok. And one of the guys is like, "Is that just a gut feeling?" And I said, "No, it's not a gut feeling. I speak to the kid all the time. He's from West Palm Beach, and we write each other on Twitter all the time. So it's not a gut feeling. I know where he's leaning. I left it at 75% because I can't make it 100 because he's a good kid. He's humble, but you can't put it out at 100% unless you're told that's where I want to go. Definitely."
Yeah,
So
unfortunately in college football, there's no 100%, right? Like yeah, a kid can tell you I'm committing here, and then by signing day, he's not in our class. So it's a crazy world for sure.
exactly. So and it went crazy on Twitter because I put 75%, but that's based on the direct intel I have with him. So
Yeah, I could see him ending up in our class for sure. I think there's a couple guys that are leaning Florida right now. They got to finish the job with that, so we'll wait and see. But again, really exciting momentum on the recruiting trail. This class has the potential to be really special, and just the fact that they just got to campus a couple months ago, John Summerall and staff, and they have this momentum is really exciting for the future for sure.
guys, before we go, because I'm not going to keep Dylan much longer because I know he's got to work, and I appreciate you for coming on.
Of course.
I want to shout out to two high schoolers that they're gonna be on my show when I speak to when I do the summer series, which I hope Dylan can jump on. There's a 28-28 receiver that he is not being pursued by anybody right now, or not many programs. His name is Noah Patel. Gator Nation, I'm just letting you know right off the bat. Let's try to get this kid to Gainesville. He's a true Gator. And another kid that I don't know if the staff's already been looking at him, but he reminds me of Jordan Baugh. He's a running back. The name is Sidney Hubbard. He's 6 foot, 200 pounds. The kid's a beast. I would love to see him in orange and blue. That's just my own personal opinion. He's also going to be in the summer series. Dylan, where can they find your work? And also, guys, before I tell them all that stuff, don't forget, we're going to have the SwampCast show coming back for season 2 during the season. And Dylan will always come back during the spring if there's any breaking news, and I can get him on because I work on his schedule. So it is what it is, guys.
Well, I appreciate you for doing that, Carlos.
Where can they find you, and where can they find your work, buddy?
Yeah, you can find me at DylanOlive_UF on Twitter, YouTube too. I posted all the clips I got from the spring game over there. If you guys want to go check it out, find my work at Florida Gators on SI. Go check out all the work from Cam Parker, Kyle Lander, Harrison, Tyler. All those guys do great work. So I really appreciate you, Carlos, and as always, go Gators.
The kid I was mentioning, his tag is Noah Patel 28 on Twitter, in case you guys want to follow him. Appreciate you guys, and like always, stay positive, stay on your grind, and go Gators. Also, guys, before I go, don't forget there's a merch store in the description. See you later, guys. Peace.
Turn up the game, feel the crowd ignite. Big plays coming under Friday night. Baseball swing, hear the crack of the bat. Basketball swish, yeah, just like that. Touchdowns, home runs, breaking chains on this channel. We bring the heat to the game. Lock in, suit up, get ready to go. You're part of the fam, now enjoy the show. And rolling with Carlos, we bring the fire.
Welcome to the show SwampCast, hosted by Carlos and Dylan.